The ink was barely dry on the $10 billion acquisition deal. I walked out of the private VIP suite, the waiters bowing with practiced reverence, only to step into the shadows of the corridor and see my wife, Elena, locked in a passionate embrace with a slick-haired man I didn't recognize. Julian, what are you doing here? Elena shoved the man away, the color draining from her face. Her lips were still wet, stained with saliva that wasn't hers. The man interrupted didn't look panicked. Instead, he looked me up and down with a nauseating mixture of arrogance and pity. Oh, Elena, is this the husband you told me about? The one who only knows how to work, never comes home, and thinks throwing money at you makes up for being a boring, impotent waste of space. Elena, terrified, tried to cover his mouth. Caleb, shut up. Don't say another word. Why shouldn't I? Caleb slapped her hand away, raising his voice so the passing staff could hear. Stuck with this wooden block? It's an injustice to you, babe. Sure, he has money, but does he understand you like I do? I bet he isn't even a real M. His malicious speculation never finished. My right leg lashed out, a blur of motion driven by a cold, violent wind. My shoe connected with surgical precision against his mouth, right where the filth was spewing from. Crunch. Arg. My nose. A sickening thud mixed with the crisp snap of cartilage. Caleb didn't even see it coming. He went flying like a discarded sack of trash, crashing backward until his skull cracked against the polished marble floor. Blood erupted from his nose and mouth like a broken faucet, staining his face and blooming into a shocking crimson flower on his expensive white shirt. He rolled on the ground, screaming like a dying animal. Blood. My nose is broken. Call the cops. I'm calling the police. You lunatic. You dare hit me? He shrieked threats through a mouthful of blood, his hands fumbling for his phone. Police? I stepped forward, my left foot pinning his wrist to the floor as he tried to dial. While he screamed anew, I clenched my right fist, knuckles cracking, and brought it down like a sledgehammer. Thud! The punch landed squarely on the bridge of his nose, which had already been collapsed by my kick. Ugh! His curses and threats were choked off, replaced by a high-pitched, breathless wail as his body convulsed violently. But it wasn't enough. My eyes scanned the hallway and landed on a large ornamental plant nearby, supported by a sturdy mahogany stake. I ripped the wooden rod out of the soil. It was slightly thinner than a wrist, solid and heavy. I weighed it in my hand. Then, without a second of hesitation, I swung my arm back, fueled by the murderous rage boiling in my chest, and brought it down on the curling form of Caleb Rivers. Whack! The wood sliced through the air and slammed into his back. Whack! Another strike, this time across his outer thigh. Help! Stop! You're killing me. Elena, help me! Caleb let out inhuman screams, flopping on the floor like a fish thrown on a dry land, twisting in unnatural shapes to escape the rain of blows. Every strike was accompanied by the dull sound of bruising flesh and his tearing cries. The arrogance from moments ago had evaporated, leaving only a primal desire to survive. Julian, stop! You're going to kill him. Stop it! Elena screamed, rushing forward to grab my arm. I didn't even look at her. I swung my free left hand as if swatting a fly. Smack! A deafening slap echoed through the hall. Elena spun halfway around and hit the floor hard. Her cheeks swelled instantly, her ears ringing into silence. She clutched her face, staring in horror at the hellscape unfolding before her. On the ground, Caleb continued to wail, his body twisted at odd angles as if his bones were pulverized. I was getting tired. I tossed the blood-stained steak onto Caleb's heaving chest. Manager Davis. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through Caleb's moans like a razor. Within seconds, a portly man in a suit scrambled over, sweating profusely, his face a mask of terror and deference. He bowed so low he was nearly folded in half. Mr. Thorne, whatever you need. His voice trembled. He didn't dare look at the carnage on the floor. I pointed at the mess of blood and broken man. Clean this up. I don't want to hear a whisper about this. Yes. Rest assured. It will be spotless. Absolutely no trouble. Manager Davis nodded like a bobblehead, looking ready to kneel and pledge his loyalty. This blind idiot dared to offend you. He deserves whatever he got. Ignoring him, I walked over to Elena, who was paralyzed on the floor, shivering and clutching her face. I bent down, grabbed a handful of her carefully styled hair, and hauled her to her feet without a shred of mercy. It hurts. Julian, let go. What are you doing? The tearing pain in her scalp drew a sharper scream from her than the slap had. She kicked and struggled, but I ignored her, dragging her like a disobedient dog. I forced her head back, making her stumble behind me as I marched toward the exit, under the terrified, silent gaze of the club's staff and patrons. Her crying, begging, and cursing, mixed with Caleb's fading groans, provided the soundtrack for the evening. The heavy doors of the villa slammed shut behind me, sealing us off from the world. I threw Elena forward. She stumbled, unable to find her footing before I kicked the back of her knee. "Ah!" she shrieked, crashing knees first onto the cold marble floor with a bone-jarring thud. I didn't give her a chance to breathe. I stepped on the hand she tried to use to push herself up, grinding my soul into her delicate fingers. "Speak!" I loomed over her, my voice sounding like it had been dredged from a frozen lake. "How long have you been with that trash?" Cold sweat beaded on Elena's forehead from pain. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with dirt and smeared makeup. But she looked up, and amidst the pain, a look of desperate resentment surfaced. "How long?" "Ha ha!" She laughed, a shrill, desolate sound. "Julian, now you ask? Do you have anything in your eyes besides your business and your billion-dollar contracts? Do you even know this home exists?" She yanked her hand away, ignoring the pain in her fingers, and pointed at the living room, luxurious as a palace but cold as a tomb. She screamed hysterically, "Yes, I'm with Caleb. 6 months. For 6 whole months. How many times have you been home in that time? Do you even remember my birthday? Caleb might not have your money, but he eats with me. He knows what I like. He holds me when I'm sad instead of sending me a cold credit card and a text saying busy, no time." She grew more agitated, as if she were the victim, pushing all the guilt onto me. "It's you. You failed me first, Julian. You turned me into this. Caleb gave me warmth, the happiness and companionship you never could. What did I do wrong? Happiness? Companionship?" I repeated the words, spitting from her mouth. The violence I hadn't fully expended at the club ignited in my chest like gasoline hitting a flare. I bent down, grabbed her by the throat, lifted her off the floor, and slammed her against the ornate European console table. A limited edition crystal vase wobbled and shattered on the floor. Using my money to buy million-dollar bags, wearing $10 million jewelry, driving limited edition sports cars to support a gigolo who only knows how to talk sweet and leech off women. That's your definition of happiness? I leaned into her face, turning purple from lack of oxygen. Every word I spoke dripped with bloodlust. Companionship? That haute couture nightgown, 20 grand. Did he buy that with his companionship? That watch on your wrist, $500,000. Did he earn that? Or your useless family's business, which only survived because I let scraps fall from my fingers? Did his companionship save them from bankruptcy? I released her throat. As she gasped greedily for air, coughing violently, my right arm swung. Smack! A slap harder than the one at the club struck her swollen face. Elena's head snapped to the side, her vision blacking out, nearly fainting. "Your happiness is expensive as hell." I grabbed her hair, forcing her to look at me, and slapped the other side of her face without mercy. Smack! "My money is for you to spend, not to fund your adultery. And you have the nerve to be self-righteous about it." Bang! I punched the cabinet door beside her head. The solid wood caved in, splinters flying. Elena flinched, screaming and curling into a ball. "No. Julian, Panic set in. She tried to explain, but I gave her no chance. I dragged her like a carcass from the entryway into the spacious living room. Along the way, her curated art pieces and beloved furniture were knocked over. I threw her onto the cold hardwood floor. My fists and feet fell like torrential rain, avoiding lethal spots, but targeting the areas that would hurt the most. Back, thighs, ribs. "Ah, stop. It hurts. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Sobi. Julian, spare me. I won't do it again. Please, stop hitting me. It hurts so much." The resentment and grievances she had spewed earlier were beaten out of her, leaving only primal fear and begging. She rolled on the floor, crying, snot and tears smearing her face. Her expensive nightgown was torn, stained with dust and her own blood. Only when she lay paralyzed like a pile of mud, too weak to even beg, twitching and whimpering, did I stop. I stood up, adjusting my slightly rumpled cuffs. My breathing hadn't even quickened. I walked to the study and retrieved the divorce agreement my lawyers had drafted and emailed to me on the drive home. Returning to the living room, I threw the thick stack of documents directly into her face. The papers scattered, some landing on her tear-stained, bloody cheeks. Elena looked at the papers blankly. When she saw the bold words divorce agreement, it was like a shot of adrenaline. She struggled up, ignoring the pain, scrambling on hands and knees to grab the papers. She glanced at them, then let out a scream sharper and more terrified than before. "No, I won't sign. I won't divorce. Julian, you can't do this to me." She waved her arms frantically, tearing at the papers, as if destroying them would change reality. I won't divorce. I'll die before I divorce. I am Mrs. Thorne. I am the only legitimate Mrs. Thorne. She lifted her dirty, tear-streaked face, eyes filled with the ultimate terror of losing her status. She crawled over, hugging my leg, begging with every ounce of strength she had left. Julian, husband, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I was possessed. I was confused. You've beaten me. You've cursed me. Please forgive me this one time. I swear I'll never do it again. I'll cut off all contact with Caleb. I'll stay home. I won't spend money recklessly. Whatever you say, I'll do. Please don't divorce me. Without the title of Mrs. Thorne, I'll die. I'll really die. All those people who used to suck up to me will laugh at me. I'll be less than a dog to them. Look at the last few years. Even if I have no credit, I've put in the time. Please, give me one more chance. Just one. She cried until she nearly fainted, clinging to my leg as if it were her only lifeline, humbled into the dust. It was an ironic contrast to the ugly entitlement she had shown just minutes ago. Elena's wailing was like the buzzing of flies in the empty, cold living room. She clung to me, staining my custom trousers, repeating the same useless phrases. I looked down at her wretched state, feeling nothing but cold disgust. Ignoring her performance, I took my phone from my inner pocket, unlocked it, and pressed the first number on the recent calls list. It was answered instantly. Mr. Thorne. My assistant Marcus's calm voice came through. Looking at Elena begging at my feet, I spoke 2 words clearly into the phone. Execute it. Then, without waiting for a response, I hung up. The whole process took less than 3 seconds. I tossed the phone onto the sofa and then, finger by finger, pried Elena's grip off my leg. I walked to the center of the living room and sat down on the massive Italian leather sofa. The sudden silence was more terrifying to her than the violence. I didn't hit her, didn't scold her, didn't even look at her. This absolute indifference was a hand choking the life out of her. Oh, who did you call? Elena's voice trembled violently. Her eyes widened, filled with suspicion and a terrible premonition. Execute. Execute what? Julian, what are you doing? Tell me. She tried to mask her panic with screaming, but the frailty in her voice betrayed her. Moments later, a sharp, urgent ringtone sliced through the suffocating silence. It was Elena's phone. The screen lit up on the carpet, the caller ID flashing frantically. Mom, Elena froze. She scrambled to answer. Mom, Mom. As soon as the call connected, her mother's voice, thick with tears and terror, exploded from the speaker. It's over. It's over, Elena. Your father was in a car accident. What? Elena's voice cracked, screeching. Just now, on his way home, a large truck. It drove like it was crazy and smashed right into him. Your father's car. It's crushed flat. He's in the emergency room now. The doctors say. They say it's critical, he might. Might. Her mother broke down into wails, unable to finish the sentence. But the implication was clear. Buzz. Elena felt her mind go blank. The blood rushed to her limbs and then vanished, leaving her bone cold. The phone slipped from her hand, hitting the carpet with a dull thud. The screen cracked, but she didn't care. Stiffly, inch by inch, she raised her head. Her gaze locked onto me. The face that had been filled with resentment and luck-pushing was now a mask of absolute, ghostly horror. Her pupils dilated to the limit, her body shaking uncontrollably, 100 times worse than when I was beating her. She looked at me as if I were a demon who had crawled out of hell to dictate life and death. Only now did she truly understand that she had never known the man in front of her. This man, her husband in name, wasn't just cold or violent. He possessed power and methods she couldn't comprehend. It was you. Her lips quivered, every word costing her immense effort, her voice raspy. You did this, didn't you, Julian? Was it you? I didn't admit it. I didn't deny it. I just looked back at her with bottomless black eyes, as if she had asked an incredibly stupid question. That silence was more terrifying than a confession. Why? Come at me. Why hurt my parents? They are innocent. Julian, you devil, you animal. She screamed hysterically, trying to use insults to vent the fear that was about to explode inside her. I remained unmoved. I simply tilted my chin slightly, my gaze falling once again on the scattered divorce papers. The gesture was a bucket of ice water, extinguishing her fake madness instantly. Remember, this is your only choice. I paused, and under her terrified gaze, spoke slowly. If you really don't want to sign, that's fine. But I hate trouble. I don't want to drag this out in court over trivial matters. So, the outcome of becoming a widow. is not unacceptable to me. The word widow branded itself onto her soul like a hot iron. Her head snapped up, fear peaking, her crying silenced by sheer shock. She finally understood. This man had the ability, and the lack of conscience, to make her cease to exist. Seeing her completely frozen, forgetting even to tremble, I lost the last of my patience. She understood. She finally understood. Thud! She fell to her knees again, hitting the floor with a sickening crack, her posture more abject and desperate than before. She stopped cursing, stopped questioning. There was only the pure, distilled fear of absolute power. I'll sign. I'll sign. I'll sign right now. She practically crawled, frantically searching the floor for the pen she had thrown earlier, her fingers shaking so badly she could barely grip it. She grabbed the pen, didn't even look for a flat surface, and laid the crumpled agreement on the floor. With every ounce of strength she had left, she scrawled her name crookedly on the signature line. Elena Torne. After writing it, she collapsed as if her bones had been removed, leaving only suppressed, despairing sobs. I stood up, walked over, and bent down to pick up the signed agreement. I walked to the entryway and pressed the intercom, my voice cold. Send 2 inside. Immediately, 2 bodyguards in black suits, broad-shouldered, expressionless machines, walked in. Clear Miss Vance and all her personal belongings out. Leave nothing behind. Yes, Mr. Thorne. The bodyguards moved instantly. One hoisted the limp Elena without a shred of gentleness, while the other moved quickly to the walk-in closet and master bedroom, stuffing her expensive clothes, bags, and jewelry haphazardly into her own suitcases. Elena offered no resistance. Like a broken doll, she was dragged by the bodyguards toward the door. As she passed me, her hollow eyes didn't dare meet mine. The villa's front door opened, letting in the cold night wind. The bodyguards shoved her and the bulging suitcases out. Bang! The heavy door slammed shut with a dull, final sound, severing her last connection to the world of supreme luxury and power. Inside was the cold throne of control. Outside was the endless night and despair of having lost everything. The metal bench in the precinct waiting room radiated a specific, institutional chill that seeped through thin fabric and into the bone. Elena curled up on the seat, hugging herself tightly, trying to scavenge some warmth. Days ago, she was Mrs. Thorne, living in the clouds. Now, she was wearing wrinkled, out-of-season clothes pulled from a suitcase, bruises fading on her face, sitting in a place smelling of sweat and cheap disinfectant. She looked like any other battered citizen seeking help. No, she was worse. They had hope. She only had fear and a faint, desperate wish for justice. Elena Vance, follow me. A middle-aged female officer with a stern face called her name. Elena jumped, as if stung, stumbling after the officer into a small interrogation room. She sat, wringing her hands, nails digging into her palms. You want to file a report? Details, the officer said, opening a notebook. Her tone was strictly business. I want to report my ex-husband, Julian Thorne. Elena took a deep breath. He beat me, and Caleb Rivers, at the Obsidian Club a few nights ago. He beat Caleb bloody in front of everyone and hit me too. You can check the cameras. The staff can testify. She spoke fast, afraid her courage would evaporate. She rolled up her sleeve to show the bruises and pointed to her swollen cheek. The officer glanced at her, eyes calm and unnerving. The Obsidian Club? Time. Elena gave the date and time. The officer picked up a phone, murmured a few words, and waited. The silence was agonizing. Finally, the phone rang back. The officer listened, gave a few non-committal grunts, and hung up. She looked at Elena, her voice flat. We just verified with the club. The surveillance system in that specific zone malfunctioned at that time. All footage is lost and unrecoverable. What? Impossible. Elena shot up from the chair. How could it just break? Julian beats people up, and the cameras conveniently fail? Don't you see? He did this. The officer frowned. Mom, control yourselves. We need evidence. Equipment failure is a technical issue. The club provided a repair report. Then, witnesses. There were waiters, other guests. Ask them. The officer looked at her with something akin to fleeting pity. We contacted staff and registered guests. Their stories are consistent. They didn't see any assault. As for Mr. Rivers, they recall seeing him, but no conflict. Lies. They're all lying. Elena broke down, slamming her hands on the table, eyes bloodshot. They're afraid of him. Everyone is afraid of Julian Thorne, so they won't speak. Can't you see that? Is he above the law just because he's powerful? The officer's face darkened. Mom, watch your words. Our investigation is lawful. Without evidence, based only on your word, we cannot file criminal charges. You can request an injury assessment, but this is a civil dispute. Civil. He almost killed Caleb. Caleb is in the hospital. Regarding Mr. Rivers, the officer interrupted. We contacted the hospital. He is unable to be interviewed. Furthermore, preliminary reports indicate his injuries stem from a bar fight. There is no link to Mr. Thorne. Elena opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Cameras broken. Witnesses suffering collective amnesia. Caleb's beating labeled a bar fight. An invisible net had sealed all her exits. She stumbled out of the precinct, shivering. She finally saw the true extent of Julian's terror. It wasn't just violence. It was the power to warp reality. He could erase evidence and silence the living. She pulled out her phone and called her mother. Mom, how is Dad? Her mother's voice was exhausted. Elena. The police said, the car that hit your dad. It had fake plates. Elena's heart sank. The car? Did they find it? They found it in an abandoned lot. But her mother's voice trembled with fear. It was burned to a crisp. Just a black metal frame. They can't trace anything. Fake plates. Burned car. The phone slipped from Elena's hand, shattering on the pavement. She stood on the busy street, surrounded by sunshine and traffic, yet she felt like she was standing in a desolate wasteland. She looked up at the blue sky, sliced by skyscrapers, and wanted to laugh. She had been so stupid. She thought the law could restrain him. She finally understood what kind of monster she had provoked. A few days later, on the top floor of Thorne Enterprises, I sat behind the expansive desk, a predator resting on his throne. Marcus stood silently, placing a slim tablet in front of me. Mr. Thorne, here is the information you requested. I picked up the tablet, swiping through the high-definition screenshots. Group 1. Elena holding Caleb's arm, laughing as they exited high-end boutiques on Fifth Avenue. The latest crocodile skin bag on her arm, the limited edition watch on his wrist, all charged to the supplementary card I provided, the one with no limit. Group 2. In the corner of a Michelin-starred restaurant, in the elevator of a busy mall, even by the roadside, kissing, entangled, Elena's face glowing with a satisfaction I had never seen. Group 3. Records of them entering presidential suites at various five-star hotels. Finally, the background check on Caleb Rivers. The data showed he was a professional con artist. He was a peacock, preening at high-end galas and private clubs, hunting for wealthy, lonely women with unhappy marriages. He used practiced gentleness and his looks to pry open their hearts and their wallets. Elena was just one of many clients, the most generous and the most stupid. I watched calmly, expressionless. Finally, I set the tablet down and leaned back, looking out at the miniature city skyline. Compile this. Send it anonymously to the women on the list who have been serviced by Mr. Rivers. I'm curious what their reaction will be to this surprise. Marcus bowed slightly. Understood, Mr. Thorne. The gift was sent. It was like dropping a depth charge into a calm lake. The first to explode was the only daughter of a construction tycoon on the Upper East Side, known for a fiery temper. She was admiring new jewelry when the email landed. Seeing the man who had sworn eternal love to her holding another woman, spending her money, she smashed her iPad on the floor. Find him. Find that bastard Caleb. I'll skin him alive. Next was the shipping magnate's widow. Seeing the photos of Caleb and Elena, she shook with rage. Get everyone. Find that ungrateful gigolo. And that Vance woman. Spare no one. Panic spread like a plague through the circle of wealthy women who had been scammed. Shame turned into a tidal wave of fury. They mobilized everything, private investigators, thugs, connections, tightening a net around the city to find Caleb and Elena. Meanwhile, Caleb and Elena were hiding in a cheap motel in Queens, having just left the hospital. They were still reeling from Julian's assault, unaware of the storm brewing outside, until Caleb's phone exploded with calls from unknown numbers screaming curses. Until Elena, trying to buy food with her last bit of cash, was tailed by thugs. Until their motel door was pounded on in the middle of the night. They realized Julian's revenge wasn't over. This wrath from peers was more direct and dirty than the law. They began a desperate flight, moving from one borough to another, staying in cash-only flophouses. They lived like hunted rats. The days of luxury felt like a past life. Now, cramped and damp, moldy rooms, they fought over instant noodles and blamed each other. It's all your fault. If not for you, you jinx, I wouldn't be here. Caleb, clutching his still-healing ribs, roared at Elena. The mask of the gentle lover was gone, revealing the selfish coward beneath. My fault. Caleb, do you have a conscience? Elena screamed back, hair matted, eyes sunken. If you hadn't seduced me and scammed my money, would we have offended Julian? You're a liar. Scum. You ruined me. I scammed you. You threw yourself at me. You think you're prize? You're just Julian's leftovers. You bastard. The arguments grew more vicious with every hour of fear. Finally, on a rainy night in a crumbling tenement in the Bronx, they reached the breaking point. Fighting over the last of the money, screaming about who should go out to distract the car, watching them downstairs. Go to hell. Caleb, I was blind. Elena, looking like a madwoman, grabbed a rusty fruit knife from the table and lunged. Caleb stepped back in terror, tripping over trash. Schlick! The sound of metal entering meat was sickeningly muffled. The world seemed to freeze. Elena gripped the handle, staring blankly at Caleb's wide, unbelieving eyes, watching the blood bloom on his chest. Caleb opened his mouth to speak, but only bloody foam bubbled out. His eyes dimmed, his body twitched, and he went limp. Elena let go as if burned, stumbling back until she hit the cold, damp wall. She looked at her bloody hands, then at the cooling corpse, and let out a silent scream of pure horror. At that exact moment, downstairs, inside an unremarkable black sedan, a man lowered his binoculars and picked up his phone. Target confirmed deceased. Perpetrator, Elena Vange. He hung up. Within minutes, sirens wailed, cutting through the rainy night. The door was kicked open. Police! Don't move! Flashlights beamed onto Elena's pale, blood-spattered face and the stiff body at her feet. She didn't resist as the cold handcuffs clicked onto her wrists. As she was led downstairs, passing the black sedan, she thought she saw a familiar, cold silhouette through the tinted window. In that moment, she understood everything. From the beginning, she had been living in his web. Even this final madness, this ending where she killed her true love, was likely part of his cold calculation. Rain mixed with tears on her face. She looked up at the glowing city skyline in the distance, the symbol of the power she had lost, and made a strange sound, half laugh, half sob. It was over. This time, it was truly, completely over. My phone buzzed with the news of Elena's arrest and the video file. I swiped left, deleting it casually. I picked up the crystal glass on my desk, the amber whiskey swirling inside. I took a sip. Good. The show was finally over. Story complete.